Well, joining us today is Chad. He's a dad and an award-winning author based in Louisiana. Chad joins us to talk about his son Eli. And before we talk to Chad, though, we're going to take a quick look at a documentary trailer about his son, and then we'll come back and talk with Chad in person.
All right, man, go. Yay! Can you shoot one more time? My name is Chad Judice. I'm a husband, a father, been in Catholic education for 14 years. I'm a award-winning author and a national speaker. In May of 2005, a former student asked me a question I'd never been asked before. He said, "Hey coach, what's your greatest fear?" And I told him my greatest fear would be to have a child with a mental or physical handicap. Because I was such a perfectionist, I didn't think I'd handle that very well. And 4 years later, that greatest fear had become my reality.
It's just a little piece of the documentary there, and joining us now on the phone is Chad Judice. And thank you so much, Chad, for being with us today.
Well, thank you all so much for having me on your program. Honored to be here.
Well, we caught a little bit of that, and you talking about one of your worst fears before this all took place. And maybe if you could talk about that and how Eli, as a special needs child, changed your fear into being your inspiration.
Well, absolutely. I had voiced that question or answer to that question to a former student, and 4 years later it became my reality. In the darkness of an ultrasound room, my son is approaching 6 years old, or he's 6 years old, and he's had 6 major surgeries in the last 6 years of his life. And to face those kind of odds and adversities the way he does really inspires me to put things into perspective. Yesterday's gospel was from the Beatitudes, and Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom of God." And Eli really inspires me because he's made me realize that there are things in life that are really important and things that aren't. And I don't take anything for granted anymore. I count my blessings each day, and I ask God for the grace to see where he wants me to go with that and what he wants me to do as a father and as a husband, not only to Eli, but to my wife Ashley and my other 2 kids.
Chad, Father's Day is coming up, of course, on June 21st, and you know, as we all know, life is not perfect all the time, and you've learned that lesson in a very deep way through your son Eli, who is apparently a very good basketball player from what I just saw. Hey, what advice would you share about being a good dad, about parenting from your experience?
Part of the thing I think that comes along with being a good father is being present to your children and to your family. I think as men sometimes we get caught up in the idea that we need to be the provider, and that's true in a certain sense, but at the same time, if you're a provider but you're absent from being at home and in the presence of your family and your children, your kids miss out on things they need to see that come only from a father. In Pope John Paul II's apostolic exhortation he wrote on the family, I want to quote one of the lines that he put in that document that really has had an impact on my life. And he said that in reviewing and reliving on earth the very fatherhood of God, a man is called upon to ensure the harmonious and united development of all the members of his family. He will perform this task by exercising generous responsibility for the life conceived under the heart of the mother, by a more solicitous commitment to education, a task he shares with his wife. And the education part is referring to educating your child in the faith. So it's important for young men and young boys and young girls to see their father in prayer, to see their father attending Mass, to see their father living out their Catholic faith, not just a guy that leaves in the morning, goes to work, and comes back home and is there, but they need to see him in the presence of the faith in their own life and having it lived out on a daily basis. I mean, when I was a young boy, I know when I got to be in college, I went to Mass because I saw my dad go to Mass my entire life. I just think it's really important for a father to be present and to take a big role in reliving that fatherhood of God on earth for their children and being that example of faith for their family.
That's really true. We saw a little piece of the documentary, and we hope to air that documentary on Catholic TV. But could you tell us what it was like to put it all together, to participate in this, and sort of go through that part of your life?
Absolutely. It was an honor because a former student who was at the Catholic high school when all this unfolded, Eli's story took place in 2008 and 2009, and an entire Catholic high school community and teenagers were at prayer for an unborn child, and it really inspired me and inspired the entire community to show the power of prayer and witness to that. a former student is the person who put the documentary together. His name is Brennan Robideau, and he's an aspiring filmmaker, and he's very talented. So last summer he came to our home. He spent a lot of time with us inside and outside of filming. He's very close to Eli and our family, and did a great job of putting the narration together that basically gives a summary and synopsis of the plot in both of my books, Waiting for Eli, A Father's Journey from Fear to Faith, and Eli's Reach on the Value of Human Life and the Power of Prayer, the main idea from both of those. It was a great experience. And the beautiful thing about the documentary is that it's not just my voice. It's the voice of my wife and other people at the school, men, women, and students who encountered the story and how it impacted them as they carried us through it.
Chad, we only have about a minute left, but I know that Catholic TV airs full-time in New Orleans on WLAE, Channel 32.3. And we really want to hear about the Easter Sunday miracle you experienced at Tulane Medical Center. Can you tell us about that?
I can try to sum it up as quickly as I can. Eli has a magnetic shunt in his head that controls the spinal fluid that runs up and down the ventricles in his brain and his spinal cord. It malfunctioned in 2011, and it was on Holy Week and during Easter weekend. My son faced the possibility of 3 consecutive brain operations within 48 hours without coming out of anesthesia. If your listeners and viewers are familiar with Father Francis Xavier Silos, his shrine is about a mile away from Tulane Medical Center. I had a first-tier relic and a prayer I had prayed for his intercession for almost a year prior to the occurrence of what I consider to be a bona fide miracle, where a cyst that was preventing the fluid from flowing back and forth up and down the spinal cord into the ventricles shrunk at least 80% overnight to prevent a third surgery through the intercession of Father Silos. And I had a pediatric neurosurgeon with 40 years of experience who had done multiple surgeries just like this one that had no explanation from my wife and I on the Monday morning after Easter of 2011 why our son did not need another surgery. The whole story is included in the documentary, and I'm hoping you guys can play it and everybody will get a chance to tune in and watch it.
Wow, it's a wonderful story, and thank you so much, Chad, for being with us. And I know your son had some operations this week too, so we'll keep him and your family in our prayers, and we wish you all the best in the future.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. If anybody wants to check out more on the story, they can go to my website, www.chadjudice.com, or they can follow me on Twitter and Facebook.
All right, thanks, Chad, so much for being with us.